I want to tell you about my buddy Derek. Derek drives a beat up 2008 Honda Accord with a crack in the windshield he's been meaning to fix for 2 years. He wears jeans and a plain t shirt basically every day of his life. His phone is 2 generations old. He orders whatever's reasonable at restaurants and never, ever talks about money. Derek retired at 49 with $2.4 million in the bank. And here's what's wild. Most people who know Derek have no idea. His neighbors think he's solidly middle class. His college friends assume he makes decent money, but nothing special. His coworkers, back when he had coworkers, thought he was just a regular guy who was decent at budgeting. Derek is completely, perfectly fine with all of that. Actually, he thinks it's one of the best financial decisions he's made. The idea of intentionally looking modest, of not trying to look rich, is called stealth wealth. And it's not just some quirky personality quirk that Derek has. There's a reason the most financially successful people in this country practice it. And there's a reason that some of the most financially stressed people you know are driving the nicest cars and wearing the most expensive clothes. I'm Matt, and today we're breaking down exactly why looking poor might be the most important financial move you ever make. And look, I know what some of you are already thinking. Matt, I worked hard for my money. I deserve to enjoy it. I should be able to show it a little. And here's my response to that. You're completely right. You absolutely should enjoy your money. But there's a massive difference between genuinely enjoying your money and broadcasting it. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why those two things are not the same thing at all. Let's get into it. Reason 1. Lifestyle inflation is the silent account killer. Let's start here because it's both the most obvious and the most devastating. When you look wealthy, you spend wealthy. And it's not just because you're buying nicer stuff. It's because your entire cost of living silently creeps upward in ways you don't even notice until you're staring at a bank account wondering where all the money went. Here's how this plays out in real life. You get a big raise. You buy a nicer car to celebrate. Now you're paying $700 a month instead of $300. Then you move to a better apartment because, hey, you can afford it now. Rent goes from $1,400 to $2,300. Then you start eating out at nicer places, buying better clothes, taking bigger vacations, and every single one of those upgrades feels completely justified in the moment because you're earning more money. But here's what actually happened. You just permanently raised your cost of living by somewhere between $2,000 and $3,500 a month. And now, instead of that raise accelerating your savings, it completely disappeared. Every single dollar of it. Lifestyle inflation is the reason there are Americans earning $150,000 a year who are genuinely broke. And yes, I mean broke. One bad month, one unexpected medical bill, one car repair away from a real crisis. People who practice stealth wealth do the exact opposite. When income goes up, lifestyle barely moves. The raise goes into the investment account. The bonus goes into the Roth IRA. The tax refund goes into index funds. The neighbor still sees the same Honda Accord from 2014 and assumes nothing changed. But the brokerage account tells a completely different story. And the compound effect of that discipline over 20 or 30 years is almost impossible to overstate. We'll get into the math on that in a bit, but it is genuinely staggering what happens when you redirect the money you're not spending on appearances. Reason 2. Looking rich makes you a financial target. Not in a crime drama kind of way. In a completely predictable, totally understandable human psychology kind of way. The moment people around you perceive you as wealthy, the dynamics shift. Family members suddenly need loans. Friends expect you to pick up the check. Coworkers assume you can handle the bigger hit when the office does a group gift. Your kids' friends' parents assume you're the one hosting the expensive birthday party. The charity asks start multiplying. The, hey, I have this business idea. Conversations start happening more frequently. None of these people are bad people. They're just responding to information you gave them. You told them through your car and your clothes and your house and your vacations that you have money. And now they're acting accordingly. I talked to a woman named Patricia. Patricia inherited a significant sum in her early 50s and made the mistake of immediately upgrading her lifestyle. New house, new car, new wardrobe, all visible, all loud. Within 2 years, she had lent money to 5 different family members she never saw again, lost 2 friendships when she said no to requests, and was living in an entirely different social orbit that cost a fortune just to maintain. When I asked what she'd do differently, She didn't even pause. She said she would have kept her old life exactly as it was and quietly put the money to work. Nobody needed to know. The only person it needed to benefit was her. The wealthy people who actually stay wealthy aren't stingy. They're strategic. They give generously on their own terms to causes they choose at times they decide. They don't get pressured into financial decisions because of a perception they created. Reason 3. The actual data shows that wealthy people don't look wealthy. This is the one that surprises most people because we've been trained since birth to think money looks a certain way. Luxury car, big house, designer watch, the whole package. But the research tells a completely different story. Thomas Stanley spent decades studying actual American millionaires for his book, The Millionaire Next Door. Not the celebrities, not the influencers, the real ones. The people sitting on seven-figure net worths in perfectly average suburban neighborhoods. And what he found was consistently shocking to people who hadn't done the research. The majority of American millionaires drive regular, unremarkable vehicles. Toyota, Honda, Ford. Not least BMWs. Not Range Rovers. Basic, reliable, often used cars they bought and kept for years. Many of them live in modest homes in average neighborhoods. Most shop at regular grocery stores, wear unremarkable clothes, and live lifestyles that would make a stranger assume they were solidly middle class. Here's the flip side, and this is where it gets really interesting. Stanley also found that a huge percentage of the people who look wealthy are not. The people driving luxury vehicles, wearing designer labels, living in oversized homes, are often statistically carrying enormous debt to support that appearance. They're not wealthy. They're performing wealth, and it's costing them everything. There's a term in behavioral economics for this: affluence signaling. And the brutal irony is that the people doing the most signaling tend to be the ones with the least actual wealth. Because once you're genuinely financially secure, something shifts in your brain. You stop caring what strangers think. You realize, often quite suddenly, that the approval of someone who doesn't know you and will never see you again is worth exactly $0. Real wealth is private. It's boring. It doesn't photograph well. It doesn't get likes. It just quietly compounds in accounts most people will never know exist. Reason 4. You stop playing a game you can never win. You know what's exhausting? Trying to keep up. With your neighbors, your coworkers, the college friends on social media who seem to be perpetually upgrading their lives. New car, new kitchen renovation, new vacation, new everything every year. And the truly brutal truth about this game is that it has no finish line. There is always someone with a bigger house, always someone driving a newer car, always someone who just got back from a more impressive trip. If you're playing the appearance game, you are playing an unwinnable game and you are spending real money to play it. The psychological research on this is pretty fascinating. Studies consistently show that people dramatically overestimate how much others notice and care about their possessions. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect. You feel like everyone is watching you, noticing your car, judging your clothes, making assessments about your house. But in reality, people are mostly just thinking about themselves and their own stuff. Nobody is as focused on your appearance as you are, not even close. When you genuinely opt out of that game, something interesting happens. You stop spending money you don't need to spend to impress people who aren't paying nearly as much attention as you assumed. And suddenly you have real breathing room, real financial freedom. Not the kind that looks like freedom on Instagram, the kind that actually feels like freedom at 2 a.m. when you're not lying awake worried about money. Let me give you a concrete example. Jason was in his late 30s earning a solid income and essentially broke. He leased a new truck every 3 years because his friend group all drove nice trucks. He wore specific brands because that's what people in his circle wore. He went on certain vacations because his college buddies were posting about similar ones. He was spending constantly to maintain an image in a social group that was ironically also spending constantly to maintain an image. At 41, Jason made a decision. He bought a used truck, switched to basic clothes, stopped doing the expensive group trips, and sent that money to index funds instead. 5 years later, his net worth had gone from essentially zero to just under $220,000. He told me the hardest part wasn't changing the spending habits. It was getting comfortable with the idea that nobody actually cared as much as he thought they did. Once he accepted that, the rest came naturally. Reason 5. Stealth wealth protects you from predatory pricing. This one is sneaky, but once you know it, you cannot unknow it. The moment you walk into a car dealership looking like money, the price goes up. The moment a contractor pulls into your driveway, scans the neighborhood, spots the finishes inside, and sees the car you're driving, the quote goes up. The financial advisor who knows you have significant assets will steer you toward higher commission products. The salesperson who thinks you're loaded will push the premium package aggressively and frame it as the obvious choice for someone like you. Looking wealthy sends one clear signal to every service provider and salesperson who encounters you. This person can afford more, and more importantly, this person values appearances enough that I can use that. They'd be embarrassed to choose the budget option. They don't want to look cheap. There's research published in the Journal of Consumer Research showing that perceived high-status customers are regularly quoted higher prices for identical goods and services. Not because of anything they said, purely based on appearance. The system is literally taxing you for looking wealthy. People who practice stealth wealth, consciously or not, negotiate from a completely different position. They don't look like they need the luxury option. They don't seem like they're trying to impress anyone. And that ambiguity saves them real money. Over a lifetime of car purchases, home renovations, contractor quotes, and financial services, we're talking potentially tens of thousands of dollars. Reason 6. The compounding math will genuinely blow your mind. This is where we get into the numbers, and I promise it's worth it. Let's say we have two people. Both earn $85,000 a year. Both are 35 years old. The only difference is what they do with the $1,500 per month gap between their necessary expenses and their income. Person A, call him Status Steve, spends that $1,500 on lifestyle upgrades. Nicer car payment, nicer apartment, nicer clothes, more expensive dinners. He looks successful. His Instagram is genuinely enviable. His friends think he's doing really well. Person B, call her Stealth Sarah, invests that $1,500 every single month into a diversified index fund portfolio, earning an average of 8% annually. Her car is paid off. Her apartment is modest but clean and comfortable. Her clothes are unremarkable. Nobody at work would guess she's quietly building something. Now fast forward 25 years. Steve has some great memories, and a closet full of clothes that are slightly out of style. Stealth Sarah has approximately $1.4 million sitting in her investment accounts. Same income, same time period. The only difference is where $1,500 a month went for 25 years, and the compound growth of that money, quietly multiplying in the background for a quarter century, turned modest monthly decisions into life-changing, irreversible wealth. That is the real power of stealth wealth. It's not just about avoiding the expense, it's about where the money goes instead. Because money you don't spend on appearances doesn't disappear, it gets redirected. And over 2 or 3 decades, that redirected money becomes the gap between a retirement of genuine freedom and a retirement of stress and compromise. Reason 7. It completely changes your identity, and in the best possible way. This is the one nobody really talks about, but I think it might be the most important one. When your sense of self is tied to how you appear financially, you're standing on incredibly shaky ground, because appearances require constant maintenance. The image needs constant feeding, and any financial setback, a job loss, a medical emergency, a market downturn, doesn't just hurt your bank account, it threatens your identity. It feels like a personal failure on a level that has nothing to do with money. I've talked to people who stayed in jobs they genuinely hated for years because they couldn't afford to take a pay cut and maintain the lifestyle they'd built. I've seen people refuse to move to cities with lower costs of living and better financial situations because they couldn't bear to downsize visibly. I've seen people go into serious debt during tough times just to keep up appearances because admitting the financial reality felt like announcing personal failure to everyone around them. The cage built by a lifestyle inflated to support an image is one of the most expensive and most suffocating places to be. When your identity is genuinely detached from how you look financially, you get a kind of freedom that money alone cannot purchase. You can take the job that pays less but that you actually love. You can move to the smaller city that makes more financial sense. You can say no to the expensive group vacation without feeling like you're broadcasting a personal failure to everyone you know. And here's the quiet irony that sits at the heart of all of this. The wealthiest retirees I've ever talked to, the ones who are genuinely comfortable, genuinely happy, not just solvent, but actually at peace, they almost universally share this one quality. They don't need to look like anything. Their identity is built on things that don't have price tags: family, health, purpose, time, relationships, experiences that don't require an audience. And once you stop needing to look wealthy, something counterintuitive often happens. You become wealthier because you're finally making financial decisions based on what's actually good for your future instead of what manages other people's perceptions of your present. So, why is looking poor so important? It's not really about looking poor, it's about refusing to let appearances drive your financial decisions. It's about keeping your lifestyle disciplined while your investments quietly compound in the background. It's about opting out of a game that costs real money and pays back absolutely nothing. Derek, my buddy with the old Honda, he's not suffering. He's playing pickleball on Tuesday mornings. He travels whenever he feels like it. He has zero financial stress because money is the one thing he has more than enough of. The windshield crack he never fixed? He got it repaired last spring. Paid cash. Didn't mention it to a single person. That's the whole game right there. If this gave you a new way to think about appearances and money, smash that like button. It helps more than you know. Drop a comment below. Do you practice stealth wealth? Do you know someone who does? Let me know down there. Subscribe if you want more of this kind of content. And I'll see you in the next one.